Hello, this video is going to show you exactly how to do today's work and a little insight on the work we're going to do going forward. It's really, really important that you watch this entire video so that you know what to do and you earn the points that you should earn for doing the work that you're doing with your team. So on Google Classroom, we're going to be in the tab for today, Wednesday, March 30th. We'll just click on the tab here. Goldfish building, these are the instructions of what we're doing. So fourth period started this yesterday. You guys are starting this today. Now, here's how this works. Every team is going to get one large sheet of mat board. And those sheets of mat board look like this. So you're going to get one of these sheets. Now, you're going to fold the board in half. If you fold it, it'll kind of like cut on its own. It'll like it'll tear, basically. And then you're going to separate it into two pieces. You might need to use some scissors to finish the separation. Not going to let you use any box cutters today or in this project at all. We have the scissors and they'll work just fine. So you need to separate the board into two pieces. And with that, you're going to have one board, one half of the board you're going to build on. And that's where you're going to actually create your three-dimensional landscape. And then the other board you're going to build with. You're going to use the material from that board, that other half, to actually create and build the structures and the things that you need to build. Now, that's not all you get to build with, but I need you to do that so that we don't have enormous boards. So you're going to cut the board exactly in half. One half of the board you're going to build on, other half of the board you're going to build with. And every team just gets one of the mat boards. There will be extra mat boards. Don't use those. Just use the one that you have for your team. All right, so you can use cardstock, you can use mat board, cardboard, and paper to build with. So basically, the things that are already in the room. You can't use wood, you can't use metal, you can't use food, anything like that. You've got to just use cardstock, mat board, cardboard, paper, those sorts of things. Okay, so here's what you need to build, though. You're going to use the base mat board as a structure, as a base to put all the structures on. You're going to essentially make a three-dimensional landscape that shows at least the pond and pavilion area of the OLC, because the idea is that we're using this OLC three-dimensional diorama to do a commercial, which we'll do later on. So all the structures must be built. You cannot use a pre-built box. You can't use something that's already pre-constructed. You have to build everything from the stuff that we have in the classroom. So no, you can't say, well, I built this at home and brought it. It's not going to work. You have to build stuff in class. Okay. You also need to show the elevation differences of the land, the little undulations of the hills and things like that. You've got to do that. Now, if you are an 8th grader, you've already done a topographical map deal that you can use for that. Otherwise, if you're a 7th grader, you got to figure that out. How do you show the subtle differences in the land using paper and stuff like that? You also have to add text boxes, some which way, I'll let you be creative on that, that shows how your solution works in your three-dimensional creation. And then your scene must be colored, but you can't use paint. So I got markers, I've got colored pencils, things like that. And of course, you also have to add some trees, some people, other landscape elements, because the idea is that you're not just going to barely create something that you can kind of use some imagination to think that possibly in some other world this looks like it could be maybe the OLC if you thought about it. No, this has to actually look fairly nice. So one of the way I'm going to grade the final product is kind of on a curve. The one that looks the best basically is the 100. Everything slides down from there. So if yours looks atrocious, but it kind of technically has a lake and technically has a building, I might give you a 40, maybe a 45. Or you could try to make yours look better than the worst, and then you could push that grade up higher, because it's really not that difficult to make something not look bad. So you have to bear that in mind as you're building. All right, let's get through this in here. So I have some other resources. This is on the same tab that's in Google Classroom. The map of the OLC could be helpful for you when you think about how the elevation changes. So you can click on these each, and that takes you to a website that has some larger maps, but this is your topographical map. This is another map here that kind of shows the hills and the undulations. They're not really big hills, but there is a change in elevation, so we need to be able to show that. okay? And then here's some pictures of the OLC that'll also help you figure out, all right, what do these things actually look like? And they don't have to be perfect when you build them, but they have to be somewhat similar. I should be able to look at your pavilion and be like, oh, that looks like the pavilion, instead of trying to use my imagination to think that possibly it might look like the pavilion if I closed my eyes and thought creatively about something else. No, your build has to actually look like what it is supposed to look like. Okay, all that being said, I think you know how to do the work today. This second part is very, very important. At about, well, a couple minutes before the bell rings, maybe 10, 15 minutes before the bell rings, on Google Classroom, you're going to have a link to the Day 2 Teammate Rater. We're going to do, or you're going to do, a Teammate Rater every day. And the reason why is so that everybody on each team will work correctly with your team, and then we can hold each other accountable for that. We're not going to have anybody abandoning the team. We're not going to have anybody being a bad team member. We're all going to work together on our team, and we're going to stay with our team. If you'd rather be with a different team, that's fine. After class, go with those kids and pretend you're on a different team. But while you're in class, you're going to be on the team that I put you on. So this rater is slightly different than the other one that you saw. Of course, you're team member 1. You're going to select the name of team member 2. How productive was this person while they're working in the group today? Did the person do stuff or just sit around? Doing stuff is somewhere in this zone. Sitting around is in this zone. How well did this team member contribute ideas about how to build the project? Because not one person should be having all the ideas. You should have a slight mini debate or very kind conversation about how do we do this. But if one person doesn't contribute anything, they're over here. The person that contributes all the stuff comes over here. How much time did this person spend with your group? Think about that in percentages. If the person was with their friends the whole time, give them a 0. If the person was with the group the whole time, give them a 10. And rate how cooperative this team member was. If the person's like, I'd rather be with somebody else doing something else, they're uncooperative, they get a 0. If they're like, what do we need to do? They're cooperative, they get a 10. Now, with these, it's very important. If you're working with somebody you don't like, just normally, but they do the right stuff, rate them correctly. This is not a matter of liking or disliking or wanting to be with or not with people. Rate people correctly. If you're working with your best friend, you're rating your best friend, but your best friend didn't do anything, rate them correctly. Because I'm going to look at stuff and I'm going to determine, well, this person didn't or did rate things correctly. If it's obvious that you rated somebody incorrectly, then you will get dinged on the rating, on your overall score. Okay, so the couple other things when you go down from here, you're going to see a place. If there's an absent team member, you can put that person's name. We're not going to ding anybody that's absent. And then submit this. Now, this is very important. If the substitute teacher lists your name as somebody that wasn't cooperative, then you're automatically going to get a bad rating. Just, it doesn't matter what your team members say. So it's really important that you do your work today and you cooperate with your team and with the sub. And if you look in Home Access Center, I've already put the grade for the first team rating that you did or that you received. It may be low, and it may be low for 2 reasons. One, maybe you didn't do stuff and your team members rated you poorly. It also may be a 0 because if you didn't rate somebody, you get a 0 for your rating because you have to rate people. You have to actually do this part. If you don't, you just get a 0 for the rating, and a 0 is a 0. What I'm going to do with the rating score, though, on Hack, I'm going to change it daily, the same score. So let's say you got a 50 the first time. It's not good. Let's say you get 100 this time. Well, now you're going to have a 75 because you've brought the 50 up to a 75. That's the average of 50 and 100. Then let's say you get 100 the next time. Well, your score is going to go up a little bit more. Conversely, if you did great the first day, you have, let's say, a 95, but you peace out today because I'm not here, and you get a 0, well, then 95 plus 0 divided by 2, you'll get, mid-40s for your rating. You don't want that. So it's really, really important that you work with your team, that you do all the work that you need to do, and that you also rate your team members correctly. That's very important. If you follow these simple instructions, you'll have a great day. Good luck.